All right, you guys, welcome to video 5. In this video, I'm going to go over working with distance. Let's see, let me check my notes. Distance, details, scale, and frequency, okay? And this can be done, this applies to anything, okay? Not just to landscapes, but landscapes are where you're going to see the results a lot more they're going to be more obvious. So that's what I'm going to use for this example. But this relates to anything, animals, people, any of that. Okay, so we're going to take these principles. They're far more noticeable in a landscape. So obviously, I think everybody knows when things get further away, they get smaller. So we want to make sure that when they're further away, they are to scale. In other words, and this is a big one that I see, okay? This is a huge one. People will do these beautiful landscapes and these beautiful compositions, and then they'll have like grass right here that's in the foreground, and then they'll have grass right here that's in the middle ground. And then they'll maybe have something back here, more grass. All right? This grass would be very high if it was up this close. Okay, you can see that the scale is different, and people just don't realize that that's what they're doing. Particularly, and it's not as much of a problem when it's next to a building or with something else, but when it's an open area like this, you know, people will do this. And it's confusing to the eye because you can't tell, well, is this at the same level as this? You know, is this path here next to this grass? And is this a different type of grass than this one? So whenever you're doing stuff like this, you want to make sure that you are changing your scale, because obviously if the path is this wide here and only this wide here, that's pretty far away. So if we have grass, we might want to make it a little bit shorter here, like this, okay? And here we are closer up, right? And as we get further, we're not even going to see the grass anymore, okay? It's too far away for us to see it. All right, so we want to remove that, and that will give the eye an opportunity to, or your brain an opportunity to recognize what it is you are symbolically putting, because really what we're doing is we're putting out symbols. Since this is not, people are looking at our image here, but they're not looking at the real thing. So we have to give them enough information that they know what they're looking at. Now, in general, you would say, well, I've got the path and the house is smaller, so they should know what they're looking at. Absolutely, and they do know it symbolically, but there's going to be a disconnect when they see things that are out, just don't work out. For example, if you're watching a movie, and the movie is set in medieval times, and you have somebody walking around with a cell phone, okay, and jeans, that's a disconnect. At that point in time, you've shattered the illusion, and you've entered in something that doesn't belong, okay? And what it does is, again, it shatters the illusion, and it breaks the story that you're trying to tell here. It will all of a sudden, it just creates an aura of discomfort. So whenever you are drawing, whenever you are burning, and I say drawing mainly because all of our burnings are based on drawings. Okay, so you have to understand, you know, maybe you can't quote unquote draw, but even if you can't draw and all you're doing is you're tracing stuff, which is in and of itself a skill, okay, you still need to be able to recognize this stuff. So don't think of it, well, gee, I can't draw, I'm just not going to do this. No, be smart enough to understand these elements. You don't have to learn how to quote unquote draw to be able to recognize these elements and make sure that everything is there on your final piece, okay? And this is one of them. This is scale. Frequency is another one, okay? Let's say we have a little fence, and it's coming all the way here to the forefront. And let's say that our fence post is maybe like this size, okay? All right. And then we have another fence post right here, okay? Roughly the same size. All right. Now, as it recedes into the distance, it's going to get smaller and smaller until it gets to the house where it's that size. Also, the frequency will appear to condense and get closer and closer together. Okay, if you ever look at electrical poles on the side of a street, you'll notice that when they're up close, they seem further away, and as they recede into the distance, almost like they compress, they get closer in frequency. So that's what I'm talking about with frequency. As it gets further, it'll get smaller, and it'll appear to be closer together. All right, there is actually a mathematical equation for that, and I will share that with you, but not in this lesson. Right now, I just want you to be aware, because if you put these the same distance apart, okay, going back there, they're not gonna look right, okay? It's not gonna be quite believable, so you need to keep that in mind. Even if you don't do it mathematically, at least do it, be aware of it, so that you can make those adjustments when necessary. And if you're going to add something, understand that when you add that, you have to take that into consideration. That's usually where people end up having problems, is when they're adding things that aren't already there in a photograph, and they think, gee, this would look nice. And not that I'm telling you guys don't add stuff, I'm just saying when you add stuff, understand what elements you're going to need to have in order to make them believable, and so that it supports your final composition. Okay, so we've got, let's see, scale, frequency, also detail. The further away something gets, the less detail we're going to see. And I kind of went over that in here. Get rid of this stuff. I went over that here, and that we have, you know, some grasses and grass blades here. And in here, we kind of just have shadows, right? In here, we can see a little bit of the grass. But as you get further away, you don't see it. And then back here, we might see almost nothing. You know, just some shadows, so just some different patches. Okay, and that's detail, because you're going to be able to focus, your eyes can focus and pick up detail close up. But as it gets further away, you're not going to see that. I see this like if somebody was to do, I like to use this reference. I saw somewhere a piece of artwork like this where somebody did this horse in a field. And the horse was really tiny. It was very far away in the field, but it had hair. Oh my gosh, you don't even see horse hair when you're up pretty close to the horse, because their hair is so short. Okay, it mostly looks like sheen, right? But here was a horse way out in the distance, and it had hair sticking out. So, you know, there's a scale issue right there. All you would see if it was out in the field are lights and shadows. You wouldn't actually see any hair. Okay, so that's an example of what I'm talking about when I talk about detail. Further away it gets, the less detail you're going to see. The closer up it gets, the more detail and the sharper it's going to be. All right, so for this experiment here, or this exercise here, I've given you the little cottage and then the little path and everything. Go ahead and play around with this. Understanding, and do it with pencil, okay? Don't burn this, because this is not a composition, okay? But you can have fun with this. You can have fun with this. Look at how you can do, you know, your curves. Let's say this path kind of comes down here. You could put ruts, okay? Maybe there's ruts. Maybe somebody has you know, used this for you know, taking a wagon through here. Now, if this was rutted, what would our concentric lines look like? And let's say the ruts are right here, okay? They go like this. And then this one would go like this, okay? This would be fun to do some concentric lines. And then they're going to get smaller as they go in the distance, right? You're going to see a little bit more of it here. You might not see very much of that second rut down there, because we're looking at it more toward the side, but then we'll notice it here, okay? All right, and maybe there's a little bit of shadow here. I'm going to say that the sun is shining from up here, all right, and casting a shadow, all right. So you might want to play a little bit like that, all right. Okay, it's a good opportunity to play. And in here, you know, some more grasses. Maybe a rock or two, right? Getting bigger as it comes up front, okay? And you can see how you can really play with this. You can play with that. Now, if the light was shining this way, we might have a shadow down here. And I don't want to get into shadows or anything like that, but it's fun to play, especially if you just got a pencil and this is not a final thing. Just play with these concepts and play with, and now we have, let's say these are posts, all right? Now, how would we use our concentric lines on these? Okay, and if the shadow's there, maybe we have it like this, right? Okay, so you don't have to do much with this, but what I wanted you guys to see was I wanted you to see scale, okay, distance, frequency, all of these things. And like I said, don't go nuts on it. This is just so that I just want you to be able to identify it, because half the problem is being able to identify what the problem is. Once you can identify the problem, it's really not all that hard to fix it. But the problem is a lot of times people don't have any clue how to even identify it. They know something's wrong. And that's why I want you guys watching all of the critiques. Even if you didn't submit anything, I want you to watch the critiques, because what it's going to do is it's going to really refine your ability to see and to determine what's right and what's wrong. Because mastering the techniques is really just about practice, and they're really not that hard. This is not a hard medium, okay? You've got a pen, that's about it. I mean, there's only a few things you can do with it. But understanding what to do and when is really where the skill comes in, okay? So if you watch the videos, you are going to begin. I don't care how poor your skills are. You are still going to get better just by watching the videos and understanding how to correct issues and how to avoid a lot of the pitfalls, which have absolutely nothing to do with skill. Because you can have very mediocre skills and put out some really beautiful burnings, okay? And you can have outstanding skills and put out some really lousy pieces of artwork, okay? A lot of this stuff is what's going to make the difference. Understanding these things is what's going to make the biggest difference. And most people don't understand that. Most people don't get it. They think it's all about technique, it's all about the tool, and it's not. Okay, it's not. That's only one small part of it. I would say that's 20%. Understanding this stuff is 80. And no, that doesn't mean you have to learn how to draw. You do not have to learn how to draw, but you do have to learn how to tell when something is right and when something is wrong, and what needs to happen to fix it. Okay, so I'm going to get off my soapbox and let you guys get to video, what's the next one? Video 6. Thank you.